within the heart of the whispering woods, where ancient oaks stretched their mossy branches toward the twilight sky, lived a little red squirrel named Barnaby. Barnaby was a gentle soul with soft auburn-red fur, a big bushy tail that puffed out like a cozy cloud of autumn warmth, and bright, curious eyes that sparkled like dewdrops in the morning light. Around his neck he wore a tiny woven scarf of dark teal thread, a treasured gift crafted with love by his grandmother. On this quiet autumn evening, the entire forest was bathed in a warm, honey-colored glow as the golden sun dipped low behind the gentle rolling hills. A soft, whispering breeze drifted through the high canopy of leaves, carrying the sweet, comforting fragrance of pine needles, wild lavender, sweet cedar, and damp, mossy earth. Barnaby sat on his favorite high branch of the great willow, watching the long, peaceful shadows stretch gracefully across the forest floor. The forest was preparing for sleep, and a quiet, sacred hush settled over the treetops. Barnaby let out a long, contented sigh, feeling the cool evening air softly brush against his whiskers. He loved this peaceful time of day when the busy rustle of afternoon gave way to the soft lullaby of evening. The golden leaves of the willow rustled in a soothing rhythm, like the quiet breathing of the earth. Barnaby curled his bushy tail loosely around his paws, feeling the gentle sway of the ancient branch beneath him. High above, the very first stars of the evening were beginning to blink into existence, appearing like tiny silver embers scattered across a canvas of deep indigo and rose violet. He watched a tiny acorn fall gently onto a bed of green moss far below, making almost no sound at all. The tranquil atmosphere wrapped around his heart like a warm blanket. He closed his eyes for a short moment, breathing in the fresh, crisp night air deeply, allowing every muscle in his small body to relax into absolute serenity. As Barnaby rested upon the swaying branch of the great willow, his gaze fell upon a curious glint far down near the mossy roots of the ancient elder tree. It was a soft, warm amber radiance, glowing gently beneath a rustling blanket of fallen gold and bronze leaves. Barnaby tilted his head, his small ears twitching with quiet wonder and peaceful curiosity. He leaped effortlessly from branch to branch, moving with smooth, silent agility through the golden autumn canopy. With every leap he took, the forest seemed to grow quieter, as if encouraging him along his tranquil journey. Down on the forest floor, the deep moss felt soft and cool beneath his tiny paws, like a velvet carpet woven by nature itself. Barnaby approached the glowing spot with slow, gentle steps, careful not to disturb the sleeping woodland flowers tucked under the soil. He reached out with a trembling paw and brushed aside 3 crisp oak leaves to reveal a magnificent acorn. It was larger than any acorn he had ever seen, perfectly smooth, with a polished shell that emitted a warm, soothing amber light. It felt wonderfully warm to the touch, like a miniature star captured in polished oak. The golden radiance illuminated the surrounding moss, turning every tiny dewdrop into a glowing pearl of amber light. Barnaby marveled at the flawless craft of nature, feeling a profound sense of peace emanate from the acorn. The warmth wasn't hot or intense, it was a soft, comforting heat, much like the gentle sunbeams that lie across a wooden porch in late spring. He knelt down beside the acorn, his dark teal scarf brushing the soft forest earth. He could feel his heart rate slowing to a steady, calm rhythm as the light touched his face. Barnaby cupped the golden acorn delicately in his tiny paws, feeling its surprising lightness and gentle warmth spread into his fingers. The soft heat from the acorn radiated gently up his arms and into his chest, sending a feeling of deep, relaxing comfort through his entire body. This was no ordinary acorn, it was a dream acorn, spoken of only in gentle lullabies sung by the oldest trees of the forest. The dream acorn was said to gather the calmest thoughts and sweetest dreams of the night, holding them safe for anyone who held it near. Barnaby softly stroked the textured cap of the acorn, feeling its intricate, cross-hatched pattern carved by nature's hand. He realized that this magical acorn had been waiting quietly for someone with a peaceful heart to carry it through the woods. As he held it close, the ambient noise of the woods grew even softer and more tranquil. The distant stream bubbled with a slow, rhythmic melody, and the crickets began their nocturnal song in perfect, harmonious unison. Barnaby wrapped his teal scarf a little tighter around his neck, hugged the warm golden acorn close to his heart, and decided to take a slow evening walk through his beloved forest before bedding down for the night. The amber light reflected off his bright, dark eyes as he cradled the acorn carefully against his chest. He could feel a subtle, soothing pulse within the acorn, echoing the ancient heartbeat of the whispering woods. With every step he planned to take, he hoped to bring a touch of this peaceful magic to his friends throughout the valley. He stood up slowly on the soft moss, feeling completely grounded and filled with a quiet, noble purpose for the night ahead. With the golden acorn nestling safely in his arms, Barnaby walked along the winding trail of silver moss. The path was illuminated by the gentle radiance of his acorn, casting long, peaceful shadows between the slender trunks of silver birches. As he strolled with slow, measured steps, he reached the quiet hollow where Barnaby's friend, Jasper the Old Wise Owl, perched high on a low-hanging maple branch. Jasper had plush, snowy white feathers tipped with charcoal gray, and large, luminous amber eyes that blinked slowly with centuries of calm wisdom. Jasper looked down at Barnaby and his glowing treasure with a slow, contented nod of his head. The old owl adjusted his soft feathers, fluffing them up against the crisp, cool evening air. Barnaby paused at the base of the tree, holding up the golden acorn so Jasper could feel its comforting warmth. Jasper let out a soft, low hoot that echoed like a gentle hum through the quiet woods. It was a sound of welcome and deep serenity, inviting all woodland creatures to let go of their worries and prepare for a night of rest. The owl's eyes shimmered with quiet joy as the amber light washed over his snowy plumage. Jasper stretched his wide wings slightly and then folded them back against his body, sinking deeper into his perch. The air around the maple tree grew remarkably still, as if the tree itself were bowing its branches in gratitude for the peaceful light. Barnaby felt a deep, comforting connection with the old owl, sharing a moment of silent understanding under the night sky. Jasper leaned down slightly from his branch, speaking in a voice as smooth and warm as spiced apple cider. He told Barnaby that the dream acorn grew only once every 100 autumns, nurtured by starlight and the quiet prayers of the forest trees. Jasper explained that carrying the acorn through the woods would bring peaceful sleep and sweet dreams to every creature it encountered along the way. Barnaby smiled softly, feeling honored by his gentle task. He bowed his head respectfully to the wise old owl and promised to share its gentle light with everyone in the whispering woods. Jasper closed his large golden eyes, tucked his beak into his soft chest feathers, and settled down for his evening rest. Barnaby felt a quiet, glowing joy filling his chest as he stepped back onto the mossy path. The night air was growing cooler, but the acorn in his arms radiated a steady, soothing heat that kept the chill far away. Every step he took felt light and peaceful, as though the earth itself was rocking him in a gentle cradle. As Barnaby walked away from the owl's maple tree, he turned to see Jasper fast asleep, looking like a quiet statue of peace upon his branch. The soft crunch of dried leaves under Barnaby's paws sounded like a rhythmic whisper, accompanying his steps through the dim forest. The golden acorn emitted tiny, soft sparks of light that drifted upward into the night air like silent fireflies, warming the shadows with love. The winding path brought Barnaby to the peaceful edge of the whispering stream, where crystal-clear water trickled softly over smooth, round river stones. The dark water reflected the emerging evening stars, sparkling like diamonds tossed onto dark blue silk. Sitting on a flat, sun-warmed stone at the water's edge was Barnaby's friend Pip, a tiny dormouse with silky cream fur and a long, pink tail curled neatly around his paws. Pip was trying to stay awake to watch the stars appear in the night sky, but his little eyelids were heavy, drooping lower and lower with every passing moment. Barnaby walked up quietly and sat beside Pip on the cool stone, placing the golden acorn gently between them. Immediately, a wave of cozy warmth enveloped the little dormouse. Pip let out a long, contented yawn that made his tiny pink whiskers tremble. He leaned his head against Barnaby's soft auburn fur, feeling the soothing hum of the golden acorn. The sound of the trickling stream seemed to slow into a steady, rhythmic lullaby, washing away all tiredness and bringing absolute stillness to the riverbank. The cool river mist floated gently over the surface of the water, catching the golden rays of the acorn and turning into a shimmering blanket of light. Pip rubbed his small eyes with a velvety paw, letting out a soft sigh of utter contentment. The rock beneath them absorbed the heat, creating a warm, cozy seat in the middle of the cool night. Barnaby patted the little dormouse gently on his back, feeling Pip's breathing grow slow, smooth, and peaceful. Pip looked up at Barnaby with sleepy, grateful eyes, his little voice barely louder than a whisper. He murmured how warm and safe the golden acorn made him feel, as if he were wrapped in a cozy blanket woven from summer sunshine and dried clover. Barnaby gently unfastened a corner of his dark teal scarf and draped it over Pip's small shoulders to keep him extra cozy. Together, they listened to the song of the stream as it glided smoothly beneath the old wooden footbridge. The water whispered quiet secrets of peaceful mountain springs and deep meadow pools where lilies slept. High above the treetops, the full moon rose like a giant disk of polished silver pearl, casting a soft luminosity over the gentle ripples of the stream. Pip yawned once more, his breathing becoming slow, deep, and rhythmic as he drifted into a peaceful drowse. Barnaby waited patiently until the little dormouse was tucked safely into a warm nest of dried moss and clover near the bank before picking up his acorn again. With a quiet step and a light heart, Barnaby continued along the riverbank, guided by the golden glow. The riverbank was quiet except for the continuous, gentle murmur of the water flowing past smooth pebbles. Barnaby carefully adjusted the moss nest around Pip, ensuring he was entirely shielded from any midnight breeze. Seeing his small friend so peaceful gave Barnaby a warm feeling deep inside his chest. He picked up the glowing acorn once more and resumed his stroll along the winding stream, his footsteps silent upon the wet moss. Further down the meandering stream, Barnaby came across the cozy underground burrow of Oliver the badger. Oliver was a sturdy, gentle fellow with classic black and white stripes running across his face, wearing his favorite soft brown knitted sweater. Oliver was standing outside his arched wooden doorway, sweeping the dry autumn leaves from his porch with a small broom crafted from pine twigs. Oliver stopped sweeping as Barnaby approached, his dark, friendly eyes twinkling with wonder when he saw the glowing golden acorn. The badger leaned on his broom handle, admiring the magical amber light that filled his garden with a comforting glow. Barnaby greeted Oliver with a quiet, friendly nod and sat down on the wooden bench beside the badger's door. Oliver sat down heavily beside him with a satisfied sigh, rubbing his tired paws together. The acorn's gentle heat radiated outward, warming the cool wooden bench and soaking deep into Oliver's worn joints. The badger closed his eyes and inhaled the sweet fragrance of night-blooming jasmine that climbed along his wooden fence. The dark wooden porch glowed like honey under the acorn's radiant light, casting cozy shadows against the carved oak door. Oliver let out a happy rumble from deep within his chest, feeling the tension of a long day's work melt away into the quiet air. Barnaby set the acorn in the middle of the bench between them, letting the ambient warmth surround them both in a protective bubble of tranquility. They sat together watching tiny moths flutter peacefully around the garden gate. Oliver spoke softly, telling Barnaby how hard he had worked all day long, gathering sweet roots, wild berries, and acorn flour for his winter pantry. He admitted that his muscles were tired and sore, but the warmth of the golden acorn seemed to melt all his tension away like morning mist dissolving under the sun. Barnaby listened quietly, nodding with deep, affectionate empathy. He held the acorn a little closer to Oliver, allowing its soothing golden rays to bathe the hard-working badger in total tranquility. Oliver yawned deeply, a grand, comforting sound that seemed to echo the peace of the whole forest. He thanked Barnaby with all his heart for bringing such a wondrous gift to his humble doorstep. Oliver stood up slowly, picked up his broom, and stepped inside his warm, earth-scented home. He left his front door slightly open so the gentle autumn breeze could drift in and out. Barnaby lingered for a few moments, listening as Oliver nestled comfortably into his thick bed of dry ferns and fell into a deep, restful sleep. Inside the burrow, a soft lamp flickered out, leaving only the amber light from Barnaby's acorn shining through the open doorway. The peaceful sounds of Oliver's slow breathing drifted out into the quiet night. Barnaby gathered his glowing acorn into his arms, feeling refreshed and peaceful himself, and continued his journey along the soft, leafy path that led up toward the bramble thicket. Leaving the stream behind, Barnaby climbed a gentle, grassy slope toward the edge of the bramble thicket. The evening air here was filled with the sweet, ripe scent of wild blackberries, crushed mint, and damp oak bark. Nestled safely among the protective, leafy vines was a family of sleepy bluebirds resting in a large, sturdy nest woven from soft grass and down feathers. Mother Bluebird was nestling her 3 small chicks beneath her wide, sky-blue wings, but the little ones were restless, chirping softly and shuffling their feathers against the cool evening chill. Barnaby carefully climbed up the sturdy wild rose bush until he reached a thick branch right beside the nest. He held the golden acorn close to the nest's rim, allowing its gentle amber light and soothing warmth to fill the dark foliage. The very instant the heat touched the nest, the little chicks stopped chirping. They snuggled deeper into their mother's soft, downy belly, feeling safe, warm, and cherished under the golden glow. The thorny branches of the blackberry bushes, which usually looked sharp and dark, appeared soft and silver in the warm light. Mother Bluebird closed her eyes with a quiet sigh, resting her head against the side of the nest. Barnaby stayed motionless on his branch, holding the acorn steady so the warmth would penetrate deep into the woven nest. The night wind hummed a soft, sweet note through the wild brambles, lulling the entire family to rest. Mother Bluebird looked at Barnaby with deep, motherly warmth in her dark eyes, softly trilling a single, sweet note of thanks. Barnaby smiled softly and rested his back against the sturdy rose vine, watching as the Bluebird family sank effortlessly into deep, restful slumber. The mother bird tucked her head neatly beneath her wing, her feathers puffing out into a round ball of sky-blue softness. Around them, the forest seemed to grow even quieter. The rustle of the leaves overhead was no louder than a soft breath, and the starlight grew brighter and clearer in the dark sky above. Barnaby sat in peaceful stillness for a long while, enjoying the sweet, fragrant atmosphere of the thicket. The golden acorn in his paws vibrated with a gentle, soothing pulse, almost like the steady heartbeat of the ancient woods themselves. He felt a profound sense of contentment knowing that his evening walk was bringing peace to all his woodland friends. When he was certain the bluebirds were dreaming happily, Barnaby climbed down and continued toward the fern meadow. Descending the rose bush with delicate care, Barnaby touched down onto the soft, cool grass below. He looked up one last time at the bluebird nest, which now looked like a cozy cradle resting under a starry blanket. The scent of ripe berries and sweet pine drifted through the air, soothing his senses as he walked gracefully toward the wide, open expanse of the fern meadow. The fern meadow opened up before Barnaby like a vast, emerald sea resting under the starry night sky. Tall, delicate ferns bent gracefully in the soft wind, their fronds shimmering with thousands of tiny drops of evening dew. In the very middle of the meadow stood a grand old beech tree, its pale trunk thick and carved with the memories of many autumns. Beneath the roots of the beech tree lived Barnaby's friend Willow, a gentle white rabbit with long, floppy ears and a coat as soft as spun winter cotton. Willow was sitting quietly on a mossy log, nibbling slowly on a sweet clover petal and gazing up at the vast expanse of twinkling stars. Barnaby walked quietly across the soft, damp grass, his golden acorn casting a warm, glowing pathway before his feet. Willow turned her head, her pink nose twitching delightfully as she felt the comforting heat approaching. She welcomed Barnaby with a soft twitch of her long ears and moved over to make room for him on the log. The ferns around the log swayed gently in the nighttime breeze, whispering soft stories of quiet nights and sweet morning dew. Willow adjusted her paws, her soft white fur catching the golden glow of the acorn. Barnaby stepped onto the log and sat beside her, setting the acorn between his feet where its light radiated across the grassy clearing like a quiet bonfire of peace. Barnaby sat next to Willow on the log, placing the golden acorn safely in his lap. The warm light washed over the surrounding green ferns, making the tiny dewdrops sparkle like tiny golden lanterns hanging in the grass. Willow leaned her head against Barnaby's soft shoulder, taking a slow, deep breath of the fragrant night air. She expressed how exceptionally peaceful the meadow felt tonight, as if the whole world had agreed to pause, breathe, and rest together. Barnaby agreed, his voice a quiet, soothing whisper that harmonized perfectly with the gentle night breeze. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching bright shooting stars streak across the deep indigo sky, leaving faint trails of silver light behind them. The warmth of the acorn seeped into the mossy log, making it cozy and inviting. Willow's eyelids grew heavier and heavier. She snuggled closer into Barnaby's side, her long ears drooping softly over her shoulders. The peaceful energy of the meadow embraced them both in a blanket of absolute stillness. The night sky above seemed deeper and clearer than ever before, filled with countless distant worlds shining silently over the whispering woods. Willow's breathing slowed to a peaceful, steady rhythm, matching the soft pulse of the golden acorn. Barnaby sat quietly, enjoying the warmth of his friend's companionship and the beauty of the quiet meadow night. After a long, peaceful time in the meadow, Barnaby stood up gently, taking care not to wake Willow, who had drifted into a calm, deep drowse on the soft moss. He picked up his glowing acorn and set off toward the whispering pines on the northern ridge. The tall pine trees grew straight and majestic, their needle-covered branches forming a dense green canopy that filtered the moonlight into soft, geometric beams. The air here was crisp, cool, and scented with fresh pine resin, sweet evergreen, and crushed cones. Walking along the thick carpet of soft pine needles, Barnaby heard the gentle, rustling steps of a tiny hedgehog named Bramble. Bramble had short, dark spines tipped with cream, and he was busily gathering dry oak leaves to line his winter nest inside an old, hollow log. Bramble was sniffling slightly from the evening chill, his little pink nose damp and cold as he worked. Barnaby watched the little hedgehog shuffle through the needle carpet, dragging a leaf 3 times his size toward his log home. The pine forest had a quiet, cathedral-like atmosphere, where every small sound echoed softly among the tall trunks. Barnaby walked over with a warm smile, bringing the golden light of the acorn closer to warm his industrious friend. Barnaby walked over to Bramble's hollow log and placed the golden acorn right by the entrance. A wave of rich, comforting heat flooded into the dark log, transforming the chilly wooden space into a warm, cozy sanctuary. Bramble paused his leaf gathering, his dark eyes widening with pure delight as he felt the warmth embrace his prickly coat. He crawled into the opening and let out a long sigh of profound relief, curling his small legs under his belly. The little hedgehog looked at Barnaby and expressed how wonderful it was to feel such cozy warmth after a long, exhausting day of gathering leaves. Barnaby stroked Bramble's forehead gently between his soft ears, assuring him that his work was done for the night and he could rest now. Bramble curled into a neat, round ball, his spines relaxing completely until they lay flat and smooth against his back. Within moments, Bramble's breathing became slow, deep, and steady, his dream-filled sleep illuminated by the acorn's soft light. Inside the hollow log, the air was sweet with the scent of pine resin and dried oak leaves. Barnaby tucked the last few soft leaves around Bramble's sides, making sure he was snug and warm. The amber glow filled the interior of the log like a small, safe lantern, keeping away the midnight chill and filling Bramble's mind with peaceful dreams. Barnaby stepped back out into the quiet pine grove, feeling the deep hush of midnight approaching. The sky above was a vast velvet canvas studded with millions of brilliant, sparkling stars. Ancient constellations spun their slow, quiet dances across the heavens, watching over the sleeping woods below. Barnaby walked toward the quiet hill where the Moonflower Glen lay hidden. The Moonflower Glen was a magical, secret spot where rare white blossoms opened only under the light of the full moon. As Barnaby entered the glen, he saw the delicate white petals unfurling slowly, releasing a fragrance that was sweet, herbal, and deeply relaxing to the soul. Sitting in the center of the glen was a small, graceful fox named Finnegan. Finnegan had sleek copper-red fur, a bushy white-tipped tail, and large, expressive ears. He was curled up on a soft bed of wild thyme, looking sleepy yet watchful. The white moonflowers glowed like soft pearls in the moonlight, their sweet perfume filling the night air with tranquility. Finnegan's amber eyes caught the golden light of Barnaby's acorn as the little squirrel stepped into the glen. The copper fox raised his head slowly, letting out a soft sigh as the pleasant warmth reached his resting spot. Finnegan turned his sleek head as Barnaby entered the glen, his bushy copper tail giving a slow, welcoming wag against the thyme. Barnaby walked over to the fox and laid the golden acorn upon the fragrant bed of wild thyme beside him. The comforting heat from the acorn mixed with the soothing aroma of crushed thyme and moonflower nectar, creating an atmosphere of pure, unadulterated restfulness. Finnegan let out a long, shuddering sigh of contentment, letting his heavy head rest upon his soft front paws. He told Barnaby that he had been pacing the forest boundaries all evening, keeping watch over his woodland friends, but now he felt completely safe and at ease. Barnaby sat beside the copper fox, his own eyelids beginning to feel delightfully heavy and warm. The light of the acorn wrapped around them both like a plush quilt woven from starlight. The gentle quiet of the glen was absolute, undisturbed by even the faintest whisper of wind. The wild thyme beneath them released its herbal fragrance as they rested, filling the air with a soothing remedy for tired spirits. Finnegan closed his eyes, his sleek body relaxing entirely into the soft ground. Barnaby leaned against the fox's soft copper side, feeling the steady rise and fall of Finnegan's chest, taking comfort in the deep peace surrounding them. They lay together in the quiet glen for a long while, bathed in the soft amber light of the acorn and the pale silver moonlight above. Finnegan's breathing grew deep, slow, and even, his body completely relaxing into the fragrant bed of wild thyme. Barnaby watched as the moonflowers reached full bloom, their delicate white petals glowing like fallen stars upon the dark earth. Every breath Barnaby took filled his lungs with tranquility, quietude, and peace. He felt a wonderful, cozy heaviness settling into his paws and tail. His dark teal scarf felt extra soft around his neck. Yet, Barnaby knew he had one final place to visit before he could return to his own cozy nest at the top of the great oak. He wanted to visit the ancient hollow tree in the very center of the woods, where all the forest paths met. Barnaby stood up slowly and quietly, giving Finnegan a gentle pat on his copper shoulder. The fox remained fast asleep, dreaming peaceful dreams in his bed of thyme. Barnaby picked up his cherished golden acorn, feeling its gentle warmth radiating into his paws once more, and turned toward the central path of the Whispering Woods. With gentle care, Barnaby retrieved the golden acorn from the bed of thyme and bade a silent, loving farewell to the sleeping fox. He walked along the central path of the forest, where giant oak trees grew so close together their thick branches intertwined like friendly hands overhead. The forest floor was covered in a thick, crunchy layer of golden maple leaves that rustled softly underfoot with a soothing, rhythmic sound. As he walked, Barnaby felt a deep sense of unity with the forest around him. In every burrow, hollow tree, nest, and den he had passed, his beloved friends were resting peacefully, cradled by the calm energy his golden acorn had spread. The night was late, and the stars were at their highest point in the heavens. The air was cool, pure, and clear, carrying the crisp scent of autumn leaves and night dew. Barnaby hugged his glowing acorn tight, feeling its comfort impulse matching the steady, peaceful rhythm of his own heart. The overhead canopy created natural archways of dark leaves, lit from beneath by the golden rays of Barnaby's acorn. Each step felt like a slow, peaceful meditation through a temple of nature. The quiet was profound and sacred, wrapping the forest in a sanctuary of rest where no shadow felt cold or lonely. Barnaby arrived at the ancient hollow tree, a magnificent landmark whose trunk was wide enough to shelter a dozen woodland creatures at once. Inside the natural wooden archway was a communal resting nook lined with soft moss, dried lavender blossoms, and plush fleece lichen. Sitting near the entrance was Barnaby's friend Sylvan, an old badger artisan who carved beautiful wooden toys for the forest children. Sylvan was sitting on a carved wooden stump, his small spectacles resting on the tip of his snout, his hands weary from a long day of craftwork. Sylvan smiled warmly as Barnaby stepped inside, his deep, gentle voice rich with affection. Sylvan remarked how the golden light of Barnaby's acorn had been visible through the trees all night, like a friendly beacon bringing peace and comfort to every corner of the forest. The interior of the hollow tree smelled delightfully of sandalwood, dried lavender, and sweet wood shavings. Sylvan set down his carving knife with a weary but happy smile, wiping his hands on his apron. Barnaby stepped inside the cozy archway, holding up the acorn so its golden light filled every nook and cranny of the artisan's workshop. Barnaby set the golden acorn in the center of the communal nook, where its amber radiance illuminated the intricate wood carvings on the walls. Sylvan took off his spectacles, rubbed his tired eyes, and leaned back into the soft, fragrant cushions of moss and lavender. He praised Barnaby for his generous spirit and gentle care for all the forest inhabitants. Sylvan expressed how the warmth of the acorn warmed not just the body, but the very spirit of the woods itself. Barnaby sat on the soft floor beside Sylvan, feeling a profound sense of happiness and fulfillment. The room was filled with the sweet scent of dried lavender and old cedar wood. The quiet inside the hollow tree was deep and resonant, shielding them completely from the cool night air outside. Sylvan closed his eyes and drifted effortlessly into a dreamless, restful sleep. The carved wooden figures on Sylvan's shelves, little wooden bears, birds, and squirrels, seemed to smile softly in the warm amber light. Barnaby rested his back against a mound of soft moss, watching Sylvan's chest rise and fall in deep, restful breathing. The entire hollow tree seemed to echo with a feeling of safety, home, and quiet harmony. Barnaby remained in the hollow tree for a long, quiet hour, enjoying the absolute stillness and security of the space. He watched the golden light dance upon the wooden walls, creating gentle patterns that shifted like clouds across a calm evening sky. His paws were warm, his ears were relaxed, and his mind was completely free of any worry or care. He thought back over his journey through the whispering woods, from the great willow to Jasper's perch, the riverbank with Pip, Oliver's garden, the bluebird nest, Willow's fern meadow, Bramble's pine log, Finnegan's thyme bed, and now this grand hollow tree. Every single friend he had visited was now resting peacefully, wrapped in comfort and safety. A gentle feeling of drowsiness began to wash over Barnaby, inviting him to seek his own cozy bed at last. He stood up slowly, feeling his muscles stretch pleasantly after his rest. The acorn on the central table gave a soft, warm flicker, as if agreeing that it was time for Barnaby to head home to his own nest. He picked up the glowing sphere once more, feeling its comforting weight in his paws, and stepped out under the starry sky. Barnaby lifted the golden acorn once more. It seemed to shine even more brightly now, filled with all the calm, love, and gratitude it had collected from every corner of the forest. Holding it carefully against his chest, Barnaby stepped out into the crisp night air and began his final climb up the great oak where his home was hidden. The great oak was the grandest tree in the entire valley, its bark thick and rough, covered in patches of silver-green lichen. Barnaby climbed effortlessly up the spiraling bark, using sturdy branches as natural steps. With every foot he gained, the forest below looked more beautiful, bathed in a gentle mist of moonlight and starlight. The treetops stretched out like an endless sea of silver and shadow, completely peaceful under the midnight sky. The air grew cooler and fresher as he climbed higher into the canopy, but the golden acorn kept his hands and chest wonderfully warm. Below him, the whispering woods lay silent and still under the moon's silvery glow. He paused on a high branch to look out across the valley, taking a deep breath of the pure night air before continuing up to his doorway. At the high fork of the great oak, tucked safely inside a natural wooden hollow lined with soft goose down and dried rose petals, was Barnaby's home. The entrance was small, round, and neat, just big enough for a little red squirrel to slip inside. Barnaby stepped into his cozy sanctuary and placed the golden acorn in a carved wooden holder right beside his bed. Immediately, the entire room was bathed in a soft, warm amber glow that illuminated his collections of smooth river stones, dried pine cones, and tiny acorn shell teacups. Barnaby felt a long, happy sigh escape his chest as he took off his dark teal scarf and hung it neatly on a small wooden peg near the door. His cozy bed looked so inviting, filled with fluffy down and fragrant dried lavender. The room felt so warm, private, and secure high above the ground. The scent of dried lavender and sweet moss filled his nostrils as he unbuckled his tiny belt and set it beside his teacups. The golden acorn beside his bed cast gentle, flickering patterns on the ceiling, resembling distant stars floating through a quiet galaxy. Barnaby walked over to his small circular window and looked out one last time at the whispering woods below. Below him, the forest was completely still. Not a single leaf rustled in the quiet air. The stream flowed like a ribbon of quicksilver beneath the moonlight. The stars above twinkled with a slow, reassuring rhythm, as if singing a silent lullaby to the earth below. Barnaby knew that Pip was asleep by the river, Oliver was resting in his burrow, the bluebirds were cozy in their nest, Willow was tucked in her meadow home, Bramble was warm in his log, Finnegan was sleeping in the thyme, and Sylvan was dreaming in the hollow tree. Everyone was safe, warm, and happy. Barnaby smiled softly, feeling a wave of cozy warmth fill his heart. A soft nocturnal breeze brushed past the round wooden window frame, carrying the sweet scent of night flowers up to his high nest. Barnaby closed the tiny wooden shutter halfway, letting just a thin beam of moonlight fall across his room. He turned toward his bed, feeling thoroughly exhausted in the most pleasant, satisfying way imaginable. Barnaby turned away from the window and climbed into his plush bed of down and lavender. He pulled his thick patchwork quilt up to his chin, nestling his head into the softest feather pillow. The golden acorn beside his bed radiated a steady, soothing warmth that enveloped him completely, like a soft hug from the night itself. Barnaby closed his eyes and took a slow, deep breath in, and a gentle, peaceful breath out. With every breath he took, his body felt heavier and more relaxed. His paws sank into the mattress, his whiskers rested still, and his mind drifted onto a calm, glassy lake of peace. The golden light of the acorn glowed gently through his closed eyelids, filling his thoughts with beautiful, happy dreams. His small heart beat with a slow, restful pulse that matched the quiet rhythm of the sleeping forest. The fluffy feather pillow held his head in perfect comfort, while the heavy quilt kept every bit of chill away. Barnaby let go of every thought, surrendering completely to the deep, healing sleep of the autumn night. In his dream, Barnaby walked along a path of golden starlight that stretched high above the treetops. Beside him fluttered gentle glowing fireflies, their soft lights flickering like tiny lanterns guiding his way. The air in his dream smelled of sweet honey, night-blooming jasmine, and warm apple cinnamon. He felt completely weightless, floating effortlessly through clouds made of soft cotton and spun sugar. Far below, the whispering woods slept under a blanket of peaceful blue shadows. Every tree seemed to bow softly in gratitude for the love and care Barnaby had shared. The golden acorn floated beside him in the sky, growing larger and brighter until its warm amber rays embraced the entire world in everlasting peace and comfort. In this wondrous dreamland, all the forest creatures held hands in a grand circle around the great oak, singing a song of unity and sleep. The melody was so soft and sweet that it sounded like wind blowing through golden wheat fields. Barnaby smiled in his sleep, his small paws twitching gently as he soared through the star-filled sky. As the night deepened into its quietest hours, the calm over the whispering woods became profound and complete. The gentle breeze rustled the top leaves of the highest oaks in a rhythm that matched the slow breathing of the sleeping forest creatures. Down near the roots, tiny moss beetles slept inside acorn shells, tucked away from the cool night air. The stream continued its eternal song, a soft babbling murmur that carried away any remaining echoes of the busy day. The water touched the smooth river pebbles, polishing them into shiny gems of the night. Every drop of water carried starlight on its surface, drifting down toward the quiet lake in the valley where white swans rested with their necks tucked beneath their snowy wings. The entire valley was enveloped in a deep, sacred stillness that only midnight brings. The trees stood like silent guardians, protecting the dreams of every bird, rodent, and larger beast that called the forest home. There was no fear, no noise, only the pure, undivided harmony of nature at rest. High in his hollow nest, Barnaby shifted slightly under his patchwork quilt, settling into an even deeper state of rest. His small paws were loosely curled, his long bushy tail wrapped around his feet to keep them extra warm. The golden acorn on his bedside table hummed with a quiet, imperceptible resonance, radiating a field of absolute safety around his home. Outside his round window, a gentle night mist began to roll in from the meadow, blanketing the forest floor in a soft layer of white velvet. The mist smoothed out every contour of the landscape, softening every sound until the woods felt like a cozy room enclosed by curtains of quiet fog. The night was peaceful, vast, and kind. The cool fog settled gently over the fallen leaves, insulating the ground and keeping the soil warm. Inside Barnaby's cozy room, the temperature remained perfectly mild and pleasant. The little red squirrel breathed in the sweet lavender aroma of his pillow, lost in the deepest, most restful sleep of his life. In the deep heart of the forest, the old elder tree stood tall and ancient, its roots holding the memories of thousands of quiet nights. The elder tree seemed to pulse with a gentle green light, connecting all the living things in the valley through a silent web of life. Beneath its wide canopy, small forest mice slept in cozy nests lined with dandelion fluff and dried milkweed. Their tiny hearts beat with steady, calm rhythms as they dreamed of endless meadows filled with golden seeds and sweet rain. The forest held them all gently, like a mother cradling her child, ensuring that no cold wind or sharp sound could disturb their peaceful slumber. The deep roots of the elder tree reached far into the rich earth, drawing up ancient energy that sustained the woods through every season. The mice snuggled closer together in their dandelion nests, their soft pink noses resting against each other's fur in perfect warmth and mutual trust. Along the banks of the whispering stream, the water lilies closed their petals tightly, protecting their golden centers from the nighttime chill. Beneath the floating lily pads, small silver fish rested motionless in the clear, calm water, their fins fanning slowly to keep them balanced in the gentle current. The riverbanks were lined with soft, green moss that held the day's warmth long into the night. A quiet owl glided silently through the air above the water, its wings making no sound at all as it swooped down to perch upon an old wooden fence post. The owl looked out over the quiet landscape with calm, watchful eyes, serving as a peaceful guardian of the night. The water was so transparent that the smooth white stones on the riverbed shone like pearls under the moon's light. The silent owl turned its head slowly from side to side, satisfied that all was quiet and well along the river's winding path before closing its eyes to rest. Over in the pine grove, the sweet scent of pine sap filled the cool air, creating a natural remedy for tired minds. The needles on the pine trees caught the pale moonlight, shimmering like silver needles pinned against dark green velvet. Inside his hollow log, Bramble the hedgehog turned over softly, burying his dark nose deeper into his bed of dry oak leaves. He was dreaming of sunny autumn afternoons filled with crunchy leaves and sweet fallen apples. His small chest rose and fell in steady, tranquil breathing. The peace of his home was complete, protected from the world outside by the sturdy log and the warm blessing of Barnaby's golden acorn. A soft carpet of fallen pine needles cushioned the forest floor all around Bramble's log, dampening any noise from the outside world. Inside, Bramble let out a tiny, contented squeak in his sleep, his spines resting soft and flat as he swam through sweet autumn dreams. In the Moonflower Glen, the white blossoms remained open, bathed in the full silver glory of the moon. The petals seemed to hold the moonlight within their delicate veins, glowing like small paper lanterns scattered across the dark grass. Finnegan the fox lay fast asleep in the middle of the glen, his copper fur gleaming in the soft light. His bushy tail was wrapped around his face, and his breath smelled of sweet wild thyme. In his dreams, he was running effortlessly across endless hills of soft green grass under a golden sky, feeling light, free, and full of joy. The glen was a sanctuary of quiet beauty where time seemed to stand still. The moonflowers slowly swayed as a tender night breeze passed through the glen, scattering a soft, invisible dusting of sweet perfume over the sleeping fox. Finnegan's paws gave a small, happy twitch as he leaped over a gentle dream stream under a warm summer sun. Up on the northern ridge, the great willow tree swayed ever so slightly in the night air, its long, trailing branches sweeping gently across the surface of a quiet woodland pond. The pond was as still as a mirror, reflecting the vast canopy of stars above so perfectly that it felt as though one could swim through the sky. Small water striders rested on the calm surface, rocked gently by the tiny ripples created by the willow tips. A pair of wild ducks floated side by side near the reeds, their heads tucked beneath their wings, completely relaxed in the safety of their hidden cove. Everything was at peace, surrendered to the comforting embrace of the dark. The willow branches sounded like silk sliding over glass as they brushed the water's edge. The wild ducks drifted together in a slow circle, held safely by the quiet water, their feathers puffed out against the cool midnight dew in absolute security. Inside the hollow tree, Sylvan the badger artisan slept soundly on his mossy bed. The spectacles he had placed on his wooden nightstand reflected the fading amber glow of the acorn's memory. On his workbench, half-carved wooden birds and little acorns sat quietly in the dim light, waiting for the morning sun. But morning was still far away, and the night belonged to rest. Sylvan's hands were relaxed, his fingers uncurled from his tools. He dreamed of building a great wooden bridge across the entire valley so all his friends could visit one another even more easily. His heart was light and content, filled with the warmth of true community. The scent of pine shavings and lavender created a deeply comforting environment inside the hollow trunk. Sylvan turned onto his side with a quiet sigh, pulling his soft wool blanket up around his shoulders, resting peacefully until the light of day. High up in the canopy of the great oak, Barnaby's home remained a warm haven of amber light. The golden acorn on the table slowly began to soften its glow, shifting from a bright amber to a deep, soothing honey color. It had fulfilled its wondrous task for the night, spreading peace throughout the entire forest, and now it too was settling into a quiet rest. Barnaby turned onto his side, hugging his feather pillow close to his chest. A gentle smile rested upon his face as he slept. He felt completely safe, completely warm, and deeply loved by the forest he called home. The room had reached a perfect state of warm tranquility, where every breath was easy and restorative. Outside, the night was at its midpoint, holding the entire whispering woods in a quiet embrace of stillness and quiet affection. The hours of the night passed with slow, graceful dignity. The stars moved across the sky like silent dancers, marking the passage of time without a single sound. The air grew slightly cooler as the early morning hours approached, but inside every home in the Whispering Woods, the warmth of the evening lingered on. The moss remained soft, the down feathers stayed cozy, and the dried leaves kept out the chill. The forest was a living sanctuary, protecting every tiny insect, every songbird, every small mammal, and every majestic old tree under its vast, caring canopy. Nature seemed to wrap its arms around every sleeping creature, providing warmth, shelter, and sweet dreams throughout the long hours of dark. The silence was not empty, it was full of presence, peace, and deep restfulness. Down in the fern meadow, Willow the Rabbit snuggled deeper into her cozy underground burrow beneath the beech tree. The roots of the beech formed a natural ceiling over her head, strong and protective. Willow was wrapped in a soft blanket of woven sheep's wool, her long ears resting flat along her back. She dreamed of spring meadows filled with fresh clover blossoms, sweet dandelion greens, and warm morning sunshine. The earth around her burrow was dry and warm, smelling of rich soil and ancient roots. She slept with absolute trust in the peaceful world around her. Her small pink nose twitched softly as she dreamed of nibbling fresh grass beside a sunny stream. The deep underground burrow kept all cold winds away, providing a quiet, dark sanctuary where she could rest undisturbed until sunrise. Near the edge of the woods, where the forest met the rolling hills, a family of deer lay together under the shelter of a giant evergreen. The mother deer had her long neck curved around her spotted fawn, keeping the little one warm against her soft side. The father stag stood nearby, leaning against the sturdy trunk of a cedar tree, his eyes closed, his breathing slow and heavy. The deer family felt completely secure, far away from any danger, surrounded by the peaceful hush that Barnaby's golden acorn had carried across the land. The quiet of the night was their blanket, and the stars were their nocturnal guardians. The thick evergreen branches acted as an umbrella, shielding the sleeping deer from the cool night mist. The fawn snuggled closer to its mother's belly, letting out a soft sigh as it sank into a deep, peaceful sleep under the protective trees. In the high branches of the elder tree, Jasper the Old Wise Owl opened one eye for just a moment to gaze out over the forest. He saw the soft white mist lingering over the stream, the calm glow of the stars, and the complete stillness of the treetops. Jasper let out a very soft, quiet hoot, a sound so low and gentle it was more like a sigh than a call. He felt a deep satisfaction in his ancient heart. The forest was at peace. The little red squirrel had carried the magic of the Dream Acorn well. Jasper closed his eye again, tucked his beak into his chest feathers, and returned to his quiet dreams. The ancient tree rocked ever so gently in the high night breeze, singing a silent lullaby to the old owl. Jasper felt the deep contentment of a guardian who knows that everyone under his watch is safe, warm, and dreaming sweetly. As the late night slowly approached the first faint promise of dawn, the sky in the east turned a soft, deep shade of indigo-violet. The brightest stars remained shining like brilliant jewels, while the tiny stars began to fade gently into the background of space. The air was pure and crisp, filled with the clean scent of night dew on fallen leaves. The forest remained wrapped in silence, savoring the final, most tranquil hours of rest before the morning sun would touch the highest branches of the great oak. The temperature on the forest floor was cool and fresh, but inside every burrow and nest, the air remained warm and sweet. The world seemed to stand still in this quiet threshold between night and morning, holding its breath in peaceful anticipation. Inside Barnaby's room, the golden acorn settled into a soft, steady pulse, glowing with the gentle warmth of a dying ember in a cozy fireplace. The light was just enough to cast soft, friendly shadows on the wooden walls. Barnaby shifted cozy in his bed, pulling his quilt up to his ears. He was swimming in a deep pool of restorative sleep, where his mind rested completely and his body gathered strength for the new day to come. Every breath he took was slow, easy, and calm, filling him with vitality and peace. His small face was completely relaxed, free from any stress or care. The dark teal scarf hanging on the peg swayed very slightly in the gentle draft, a symbol of love and warmth that filled his small wooden home high in the great oak. Far below in the quiet thickets, tiny field mice stirred gently in their sleep, cuddling closer together for warmth. A mother mouse licked her baby's forehead with a soft pink tongue before settling back down to rest. In the stream, the water continued its steady, soothing lullaby, flowing toward the great ocean miles away. The river stones glistened under the fading moonlight, washed clean by the clear current. Everything in nature was participating in this grand, beautiful ritual of rest and renewal. The current flowed smoothly over green moss and smooth pebbles, making a liquid music that filled the valley with calm. The mice snuggled into a tighter ball of fur, warmed by their shared love and the peaceful night air. The mist over the meadow began to lift slowly, drifting upward through the branches of the birch trees like soft smoke. The first morning songbird gave a tiny, quiet chirp from a high branch, testing its voice in the cool air, before settling back down to wait for the sun. The forest was waking up in the slowest, most gentle way imaginable. There was no rush, no hurry, only the natural unfolding of a new day out of the peaceful womb of the night. The sky turned from violet to soft mauve and rose, illuminating the tops of the highest pines with a delicate pink light. The air was filled with the fresh aroma of damp soil, dew-covered moss, and sweet mountain air. On the mossy forest floor, tiny drops of dew gathered on the tips of clover leaves, sparkling like crystal beads. The air carried a hint of sweet morning breeze, carrying the scent of wild thyme, fresh earth, and damp oak bark. The quiet was so complete that you could hear the soft drop of a single dewdrop falling from a leaf onto the moss below. It was a world of pure stillness, clean and refreshed by 8 hours of peaceful sleep. Each leaf held a tiny bead of water that reflected the pink sky above. The forest felt brand new, washed clean by the night and ready to receive the gentle light of the morning sun. Inside the hollow tree, Sylvan the badger opened his eyes slowly, feeling completely refreshed and free of pain. He stretched his arms wide, feeling the warmth in his fingers and joints. He looked at his wooden workbench and felt a surge of joyful inspiration for the day ahead. He knew that today he would carve a tiny wooden squirrel carrying an acorn, to honor little Barnaby and the magical night they had all shared. He put on his spectacles and smiled warmly as he looked out the archway at the dawn light touching the moss. His heart was full of gratitude for the little red squirrel who had brought such comfort to the whispering woods. Barnaby's eyes fluttered open as the very first ray of golden morning light touched his bedroom window. He lay still in his cozy bed for a long, happy moment, feeling the warmth of his quilt and the deep peace in his heart. Beside his bed, the golden acorn sat quietly, its amber light now replaced by the natural golden sunlight streaming through the glass. It looked like an ordinary, beautiful acorn once again, having shared all its magical starlight with the sleeping forest. Barnaby reached out a paw to touch the smooth cap of the acorn, feeling a sweet sense of gratitude. The acorn felt cool and smooth now, its nightly work finished, resting peacefully until the next 100 autumns. Barnaby sat up in bed, stretched his little arms, and let out a long, happy yawn. He wrapped his dark teal scarf around his neck, picked up the golden acorn, and placed it honorably on his mantelpiece beside his favorite river stones. He stepped to his window and looked out at the whispering woods. The sun was rising over the distant hills, painting the sky in shades of rose, gold, and peach. Down below, his friends were waking up, smiling and greeting the morning with joyful hearts. Barnaby smiled softly, knowing that whenever the night returned, the magic of rest, love, and peaceful dreams would always be waiting to welcome them home. The forest echoed with the sweet morning songs of birds and the gentle rustle of leaves as a new day began in peace. Barnaby took a deep breath of the morning air, ready for a new day of simple joys in his beloved Whispering Woods.